I thought the worst moment of my life was a decade behind me, a buried trauma from my teenage years. I was wrong. The worst moment was sitting at my own dinner table, newly married, listening to my husband spill my darkest secret to his family for their amusement. And I thought that was the ultimate betrayal until 5 minutes later, when his sister stood over my kitchen sink and confessed that she was the monster who had tormented me all those years ago. My life, as I knew it, imploded just 1 month after I said, I do. Our wedding wasn't a grand affair. It was an intimate gathering at the courthouse on a crisp morning, followed by a celebratory meal with the people who mattered most: my parents, his sister, a cousin, and a couple of our closest friends. It felt perfect, a quiet and meaningful start to our new life together. We settled into the apartment I'd been leasing since January, my name the only one on the paperwork, a small detail that would later feel like a shield. He moved his belongings in over the following week, and we fell into a comfortable domestic rhythm, splitting the rent and utilities, both of us dedicated to our full-time jobs. I was 24, he was 26, and with nearly 4 years of history behind us, including a 9-month engagement, I felt secure. I thought I knew him. I knew he had a problem with secrets, but not in the way that usually breaks a marriage. There was no infidelity, no hidden life. His issue was more like a compulsive leakage of information, a need to share things that weren't his to tell. It was a character flaw I had noted, addressed, and mistakenly believed we could manage. Looking back over the last year, the warning signs were flashing like neon billboards. He'd casually mentioned a coworker's resignation to another colleague before the person had even had a chance to inform their own team. He'd revealed my friend's fragile, early-stage pregnancy to her boyfriend, completely ignoring her explicit request for discretion until she passed the 12-week mark. And he'd proudly announced the exact figure of my recent pay raise to his father, a number I had shared with him in the private bubble of our relationship. Each time, I had confronted him. My words were direct and unambiguous. You cannot share information that I tell you in confidence. His apologies were always sincere, followed by a self-analysis that he just gets excited or wants a reaction. He insisted it was never malicious, but I repeatedly told him that intent didn't negate the damage. He'd promised to do better. He promised he understood. 2 weeks ago, that promise disintegrated. We decided to host a small dinner for his side of the family, a belated celebration of our marriage. The guest list was small: his mother and father, his sister and her husband, an aunt who had flown in for the weekend, and his cousin who lived just a short drive away. My own parents were traveling, so it was just me and the in-laws. The menu was simple: pasta, salad, fresh bread, and a delicious cake gifted by a friend. I did the grocery shopping on Friday night, and he handled the cleaning on Saturday morning. As our guests began to arrive between 6 and 6:30, I put my phone on the kitchen counter, letting music fill the apartment and create the relaxed atmosphere. His mother arrived with a bottle of wine and a homemade pie, his father with a case of beer, and his sister with another salad. The first hour was a pleasant hum of conversation. We were showered with hugs and congratulations, and the chatter drifted easily from football to flight details to his aunt's hotel. The television was off, the music was a soft backdrop, and everything felt normal. By 7:30, we were all seated around the dining table. Wine and beer were flowing. My husband, who had already had 2 beers, poured himself a glass of wine to go with dinner. His mother was on her second glass. Everyone else had 1 drink, while I stuck to club soda. I hadn't had alcohol since 2020, the year I started having severe panic attacks, a fact both of our families were well aware of. After the main course, as we lingered over the remnants of the meal, the conversation veered into nostalgic and what I thought was harmless territory: school day horror stories. His aunt recounted a time a rival put gum in her hair in 7th grade. His mother lamented about someone defacing her locker with permanent marker. His cousin cringed, remembering a cruel Facebook post about his new braces. It was all standard, light-hearted fare until his mother leaned forward, a competitive glint in her eye. "Oh, I bet my story is worse than anyone's here," she declared. She launched into a tale about receiving a month of relentless prank calls after breaking up with a boy. When she finished, she scanned the table. Did anyone else have to deal with real harassment? That's when my husband, my partner, the man who was supposed to be my staunchest protector, chimed in. "My wife had the worst," he said, a strange note of pride in his voice. A cold dread washed over me instantly. "Don't," I said, my voice sharp and low, a clear warning. But it was as if he didn't hear me, or chose to ignore me. He snapped his fingers, a theatrical gesture of recollection. Right, you don't like to talk about it, he acknowledged, and then barreled right ahead. But it's a part of who you are, and you're so strong now. And then he did it. He opened the floodgates to a past I had kept locked away, a trauma I had shared only with him, one close friend, and my parents, who had navigated that nightmare with me. He told them everything. He told them about the anonymous MySpace account that had terrorized me for 3 agonizing months when I was just 14. He detailed the messages, the threats to show up at my bus stop, the crude and humiliating comments about my developing body. He described the doctored photo of me at a community pool, my swimsuit-clad body overlaid with vulgar words, an image that was then gleefully circulated among my classmates. He recounted how the school had to call my parents after the anonymous account sent a message to a boy I knew, impersonating me. He even told them that the police had come to our house, that 2 uniformed officers had sat in our living room and examined my laptop for evidence. He finished with the detail that I had to change my bus route for weeks, a daily disruption born of fear. I had never, not once, given him permission to share the story. It wasn't his to tell. For years, I had maintained a cordial, if distant, relationship with his family. I'd seen his sister at every holiday gathering since 2021. We had shared sofas, made small talk about our pets and our jobs, existing in a peaceful state of mutual ignorance. Now, that was shattered. His mother clapped her hands together once, a sound like a gunshot in the suddenly silent room. "See," she exclaimed, her voice triumphant. "I told you I had it rough, but our girl here wins." She pointed a finger at me, then turned to her sister, his aunt. "You owe me $20. A wave of nausea hit me. A bet. They had made a bet. His mother continued, beaming. My sister and I had a wager going about who in this room had the most pathetic bullying story. My husband chuckled, a sound that felt like a physical blow. "Yeah, I think my wife's takes the cake," he said, and the whole table, except for me, erupted in laughter. It was a performance, and my trauma was the main event. My hands were shaking so violently, I could barely grip my plate. I stood up, carried my dish to the sink, and turned on the faucet, the sound of rushing water a feeble attempt to drown out their horrifying laughter. I stared at the backsplash, focusing on the tile pattern, just trying to breathe. That's when his sister appeared beside me, a glass in her hand. "I need some water," she said, her voice unnaturally quiet. She stood there for a moment, and the air grew thick with unspoken words. "I need to tell you something," she finally whispered. "Not right now." I managed to get out, my voice trembling. "I have to," she insisted, placing her cup on the counter with a soft clink. She took a breath, and then the words came out in a rush. I was the person with the MySpace account. The world tilted on its axis. The rushing water in the sink seemed to recede into a distant roar. She continued, her voice a low, hurried confession. She was 14, too. She had a crush on a boy who, apparently, had a crush on me. Fueled by jealousy, she and a friend found my profile. At the public library, she created the fake account, using a singer's photo and a made-up name. For 3 months, she had orchestrated my torment from her home computer and the library, a weekly ritual while her mother was at a nearby exercise class. She named the boy. She described my profile picture. She knew about the doctored pool photo. She said she eventually just forgot the password and moved on, never realizing the police had been involved, and certainly never imagining that one day I would marry her brother. I didn't say a word. I walked out of the kitchen, past the living room where the laughter had finally died down, and locked myself in the bathroom. I leaned against the door, my body shaking uncontrollably, my breathing ragged and fast. I splashed cold water on my face, staring at my own reflection, a stranger with wide, terrified eyes. After what felt like an eternity, I forced myself to walk back out. The scene had shifted. My husband was now sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. His father was standing awkwardly by the sink. His mother had a hand pressed to her chest, her face a mask of shock. And his sister was standing in the middle of the room, holding her glass of water, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "She just told us, too," my husband said, his voice muffled. "It was a decade ago," his mother offered, as if time could magically erase the venom. 10 years is a very long time. "I'm sorry," his sister repeated, her apology a pathetic echo in the tense silence. I found my voice. It wasn't a yell, but it was firm, unwavering. "I want everyone to leave." "Come on, be reasonable," his mother started. "Leave," I repeated, walking to the front door and pulling it open, creating an undeniable exit. His father, to his credit, nodded and gestured for the others to collect their belongings. "We didn't know," his aunt murmured as she passed me. His cousin slipped out without a word. By 8:30, they were all gone. All except my husband. He tried to explain. He swore he had no idea it was his sister. He claimed he thought it was a safe story to share because it was so long ago that he just wanted to show them how strong I was. "You didn't have my permission," I said, the words feeling inadequate to convey the depth of his betrayal. "You had my explicit no." He then tried to rationalize his mother's sick betting game, and I cut him off. "I don't care about the bet. What I care about is that those people will not be in my home again for a very long time." "How long?" he asked, his voice small. "I don't know." He then told me his sister had sent him a long, detailed text message, a more thorough apology. He asked if he could read it to me. "No," I said flatly. "I don't want to hear from her. I need to think. I need space." That night, he slept on the couch. I locked the bedroom door, but sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. My mind was a whirlwind of shock, betrayal, and a resurfacing trauma I thought I had conquered. The next morning, the assault continued, this time digitally. At 8:11 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from a group chat. It was from his mother and included me, my husband, his father, his sister, the aunt, and the cousin. "We all said some things last night," the message read. "We all love each other. Let's have brunch and talk it out." I stared at the screen in disbelief. 11 minutes later, a message from his sister appeared. "I'm so sorry again. I can write more. I was 14. It was stupid." Then, at 8:30, the final blow from his mother. "Forgiveness is freeing." I didn't reply. I simply left the group chat. Then I blocked his sister's number. Then I blocked his mother's number. I told my husband I was going completely no contact with them for the foreseeable future. He said he understood and promised to handle them. But handling them proved to be a futile effort. Around noon, the intercom buzzed. It was his mother and sister at the front door of our apartment building. I rejected the call. They buzzed again. I rejected it again. A moment later, my husband's phone rang. It was them. He told them to leave. They claimed they just wanted to drop off some food, a peace offering. He told them no. They left it anyway, a bag with a pie and a note. "We love you both," in the building lobby. I told the front desk staff to dispose of it. The harassment didn't stop there. On Monday, back at work, I received an Instagram DM from a brand new account, no posts, no followers. "You're being a drama queen," it said. "Stop punishing a family for a teenage mistake." The username was a random jumble of letters and numbers. I reported the account and showed my husband. He promised to ask his family. Within minutes, he forwarded me screenshots of his texts. His sister denied making the account. His mother claimed she didn't even know what Instagram was. He then posted a message in his family's group chat, which I saw on his phone. "Do not contact my name. Give her space. Do not show up at her home." His father replied with a thumbs up emoji. His aunt wrote, "Understood." His mother, however, couldn't resist a final jab. "Space but not silence is best." The next day, my desk phone at work rang. Our receptionist patched the call through. It was my mother-in-law. "I want to hear you say you accept my daughter's apology," she demanded, her voice steely. "I'm at work," I said, but she just talked over me. I hung up. I immediately went to my boss, explained the situation in broad strokes, and requested that my calls be filtered. I sent an email to the front desk with my mother-in-law's and sister-in-law's phone numbers, instructing them to be blocked. I texted my husband, telling him what had happened and that it could never happen again. "I'll handle it," he replied. I insisted he put it in writing. He sent a text to his mother. "Do not call my name at work." She read it and didn't reply. The campaign of forced forgiveness continued. On Wednesday, his sister posted a public apology on her Facebook page. It didn't tag my full name, just my first, but the implication was clear. "I hurt someone when I was a teen. I've apologized. I hope we can move forward." She had turned off the comments. A mutual acquaintance from their family sent me a screenshot. I ignored it. On Thursday, my husband announced he was driving to his parents' house to pick up some tools and have a firm conversation about boundaries. He was gone for over 4 hours. He returned looking exhausted and defeated. His mother had cried hysterically. His father had accused me of being controlling. My husband said he stood his ground, reiterating that no contact means no contact and that he wouldn't be forcing me to see them. But even then, he couldn't help himself. He once again offered to read me his sister's lengthy apology text, thinking it might contain details that would somehow help. "No," I said, my voice weary. "I just want space." The next day, my own mother, now back in town, came over. I finally broke down and told her everything. Her reaction was one of fierce protection. She asked if I wanted to file a police report for harassment, pointing out the growing mountain of evidence: the text messages, the unwanted lobby deliveries, the work call logs. On her advice, I started documenting everything meticulously. I created a dedicated folder in my email, saved every screenshot, logged every timestamp, and wrote down direct quotes. I even took a photo of the note that came with the pie. I was building a case, though I wasn't yet sure what for. That weekend was a blur. We canceled plans with friends. My husband went out, and his mother called him 6 times while he was gone. He didn't answer and showed me the missed calls as proof of his solidarity. He said he was on my side, that he wouldn't force an apology on me, and even offered to go no contact himself if I wanted him to. I told him his relationship with his family was his to manage, but my boundary was absolute. I wanted zero contact. The attempts to reach me became more desperate. New, unknown numbers would text me, "This is sister's name, please, and please hear me," which I blocked immediately. An email from her arrived, offering a link to a Google Doc containing her apology. I archived it without opening. Realizing we were in over our heads, I found a couples counselor through my company's EAP. In our first session, my husband admitted to his impulsive disclosure issues. The counselor had him list the areas of my life that were mine alone to share. He wrote down health, money, work, past, and family. She made him define no contact out loud: no calls, no texts, no messages, no showing up, no public posts. Then, she instructed him to send a formal, written boundary statement to his entire family via email, with me CC'd, to create an official record. He sent it that night, stating unequivocally that he would not discuss my past, that they were to cease all contact with me, and that any violations would result in blocked numbers and, if necessary, a call to the police. This was my line in the sand. I was being called a drama queen in anonymous messages, but I didn't care. I wanted nothing from these people. Not their apologies, not their money, not their presence at holidays or in my home. I just wanted to be left alone. The issue was no longer about a decade-old harm. It was about the present-day harassment. It was about my husband's catastrophic breach of trust, his family's ghoulish reaction, and their relentless, entitled campaign to force a forgiveness I was not ready to give. It culminated in a decision. His family would not be welcome in our home for a minimum of 1 year. My husband agreed. We took further steps, adding their license plates to our building's security watch list and setting up alerts on my phone. They tried again, of course. His mother and sister showed up at my office lobby a second time, leaving another bag that I had the front desk discard. That night, his sister posted a cryptic Instagram story: "Accountability is not punishment." The harassment metastasized, spreading to my own family. His mother texted my mother, pleading for her to intervene. My mom shut her down immediately. "Do not contact me about my adult daughter's boundaries." Then, they called my work again, claiming a family crisis. My husband's attempts to reason with his father were met with demands for a staged apology ceremony, as if our lives were a reality TV show. His dad's ultimatum was clear: I had to forgive to be part of the family. My husband's response was equally clear: she is my family. The only one who seemed to grasp the severity of the situation was his aunt, who sent a text apologizing for her role in the bet and promising to respect my request for no contact. The pressure continued in insidious ways. His sister sent my husband an email with the subject line "full account," a detailed confession of her past actions which included new revelations, a hang-up call to my house, a cruel note left in my locker. He respected my wish not to see it, creating a separate email folder to store it for his records. His mother created new group chats, inviting us to family dinners, which we would immediately leave. One Saturday morning, they escalated their efforts by showing up at our apartment door. I saw them through the peephole and spoke through the closed door, my voice shaking but firm. "Leave." After that, we formalized the no trespass order with our building management. His grandmother, roped into the drama, left me a voicemail and made a passive-aggressive Facebook post. The final straw came when his mother, who was still on a shared calendar from when we moved, saw an entry for a dinner with our friends and showed up at the restaurant. We had to change our plans on the fly. That night, My husband scrubbed her from every digital corner of our lives. The harassment was now so pervasive that we sought a legal consultation. An attorney confirmed we had grounds for a cease and desist letter and potentially a restraining order. Armed with this knowledge, I changed my phone number. We set up email filters. We made it clear to building management that any further attempts by his mother or sister to gain entry should be met with a call to the non-emergency police line. Weeks turned into a month and a half. One day, a certified letter from his sister arrived. We refused the delivery on our attorney's advice, who then told us it was time to send the cease and desist. We did. The letters were sent to his mother and his sister, officially documenting their campaign of harassment and warning of further legal action. And then, finally, silence. The letters were delivered. The calls stopped. The visits ended. His sister's social media went private. The storm had passed. My husband and I are still together, still in counseling. He has been meticulously respectful of my boundaries, learning the hard lesson that my trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. He reads our boundary plan out loud to an empty kitchen each week, a ritual the counselor suggested to reinforce his commitment. We canceled a trip to see his grandmother, accepting the financial loss as the cost of our peace. I don't know what the future holds, or if this chasm between me and his family can ever be bridged. For now, I live with the quiet hum of a secured lobby and a filtered inbox. I document every drama queen accusation, and then I move on, because unlike them, I have a life to live, not a narrative to control.